curriculum is a big part of EFL, and I pretty much did. That was one of the things that I used a lot, was the idea of what's going on outside is a perfect avenue for expansion of children's consciousness, and so other than the realities of themselves. So I always used a reflection of what was happening outside inside the classroom. So I would never do leaves until they actually turned. I mean, and sometimes we would wait until, like early November, even though we hadn't done any leaf projects. I was waiting for them, because you can't, for me, it was like they have to experience that. You can do all the drawing and everything, but they really have to experience that beauty of that happening. We had some gorgeous trees in our last school that turned this bright purplish orange color that was just great. And if it was too hot, of course, and wasn't getting cool enough, then they wouldn't turn. And we had to wait, until they turned before we would do projects. I did a lot of coloring with melted crayon on this kind of tissue paper, and so you could fold it and make them all crinkly, and they were really cool. Super
nice.
Cool.
Yeah.
So but then also, like we would do during the month of November, it was all about family and how to incorporate our family and their traditions in each family. And then it went into what I called the Festivals of Light, where I talked about all of the festivals around the world, starting with Diwali, usually was the first one. And we would just, as many as I could, let's put it that way. Every year I had to kind of mix it up a little bit, because you did certain ones the year before, so you wanted to try to do new things. And so we would always do the Festival of Light, and that would go all the way from the middle of November till we let out at Christmas. And that was always fun. We had a whole play that we did around that, and around the solstice, and so that was a wonderful unit. We did one unit that was amazing. It was based on kind of the Renaissance. And I had to do a lot of research on how to do that. But again, with that deep spray sparkle, they had taken showing how to do castles. So we created our own castles, but also the children, this was at the end of kindergarten, they were getting to be really good writers. And so I wanted them to do a self-portrait of who they were in those days. So they kind of had to like, whoa, I probably was the Queen of England or whatever, or the Queen of France. So we had a few queens, but I had this one girl, she said she was a peasant. I had two peasants. And they did their whole garden. They would draw their garden, and they'd write all these stories, and it was an incredible unit. I mean, it turned out really great. We brought in Michelangelo and what he was like, and how he made egg tempera. We made our own egg tempera. We painted plaster like the Sistine Chapel. We created what else did we do that year? Well, they did their little sculptures, of their queen, and we wrote books. They wrote books that year, quite lengthy, all about who they were and where they lived and all kinds of stuff. So It's a great unit,
Nice.
and we had a play that year, and the whole school was doing the Renaissance too. So it felt like everybody together was learning. It was really, that was in the spring. We had a Renaissance fair. That's how we ended it, and we had booths, and I did felting. We had people from the farm come and show how to do weaving, you know, with
What grades was that for?
well, it was all grades.
All
It was
grades.
preschool all the way up to 7th grade that year. I mean, 7th or 8th grade.
Wow,
We
how
all had a
fun.
part of it. Yeah, and we had costumes. We all wore costumes because our principal had she got costumes from her costume shop because she used to be a drama teacher, and it was incredible. And I loved these big units, you know, where you spend a long time, and you really, I would take, you know, this is probably the biggest thing for parents, is are they really learning, you know? So I made a curriculum map so that I would have a roadmap of what the children, overall, the arching umbrella of what they were supposed to learn. Like, say, if they were to leave my school, our school, then they would know, okay, so they would know all their letters from A to Z. I mean, if that's what the district was asking.
Yeah.
So I had all of that criteria in my curriculum map, and then I would just dovetail my EFL into that, and so that I would be covering everything that they needed, math, science, everything, into the whole year. And I would flip through this thing and I'd go, oh, do we do that well in this month? Okay, I'll put it into the next month and we'll continue on. So I took a curriculum map unit. I was always one to search out how I could expand my knowledge to bring into the classroom, and find new curriculum and put it into the classroom, and so it could be rich. And so I found this one year, because I was having such a difficult time. I was having children, preschool and kindergarten at the time, for an afternoon kindergarten class, and I just didn't feel like I was really meeting their needs. And so I did that. I did a crow unit that year that was just magical. Between those, we had 2 little after school or afternoon kindergartners and myself.
Oh, can I interrupt
And
you for 1 second just to repeat back to you what you were saying? So you were saying that parents are really always asking, are they learning?
mm-hmm.
So what you're saying is that you would always have the sort of outline for the year or the semester of what really needed to be learned, and then you'd sort of use your EFL techniques to make sure you sort of weaved and covered all those areas. Is that what I?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah.
Okay. Because
Mm-hmm.
I think that's a really important point for teachers to understand how do we use these EFL techniques, but at the same time make sure that we're meeting the criteria and the standards that, of course, the parents are wanting to meet, and you know they're always asking about that. So
It's a big, big part of it. And when they're signing on, and I always did a PowerPoint presentation at the beginning of the year, and talked about how this was going to work. I made a theme for every year too. So usually in June, I would really meditate deeply on how I felt the next group of kids that were coming to me. Some of them I knew, some of them I didn't know. What that was going to look like, what that theme for me was going to look like. And so I had that overarching theme every year. And one year I had 9 boys, all boys. That's all I had. And I loved it. It's probably one of my favorite years. I just loved it. We just had so much fun together, and I'm still to this day, you know, in correspondence with those boys. 2 of
oh,
them
that's
are
so
in my
sweet.
yoga camp, And one of them I just went to India with. So
Wow,
I'm just
nice.
very still in contact with them. It was a very, very deep, deep time. We did a whole unit at Thanksgiving on Native American, and I gave them all spiritual names. And oh, it was just great. It was a
That
great unit.
sounds really wonderful. Well, you are such an amazing teacher, and I've always just admired you for your creativity and how you're just really always tuning into the kids and how to make it fun and exciting. And I know that me and Joe to this day still talk about the EFL family camp we got to attend with you guys, because it was just you and Surya Das just know how to make things so fun, and you're so relatable as people. And I feel like that's just one of the most important things, is you're so relatable and so easy to be around and so easy to talk to you. And I'm not surprised that you're a kindergarten teacher, because like those type of people always end up being kindergarten or preschool teachers.
Yeah, yeah. I didn't bring Yogi on. I should. Oh, Yogi. Let's see.
Is that your cat?
Yes, it's Yogi. Hi, hi there. How are you? Well, this is she is living in very, very far away in Thailand, right? In Thailand, right?
Philippines, but
Philippines,
close.
Philippines. She's in the Philippines. Clarity is her name. Oh, well, I'm Yogi, and I've been with Chandi for 15 years,
Wow.
and I never made it out of kindergarten.
Aw, Yogi's so cute. I
So
like
he comes
Yogi.
on with me at the beginning of my yoga classes, and he tells jokes. And I'm
Oh,
trying to
sweet.
be a ventriloquist. I'm learning from my grandson, who
Oh,
is a
nice.
ventriloquist, who's a really good ventriloquist.
That's so
And
fun.
so he kind of comes alive, and he's truly been with me for, see, he's still got his old coat on from Seattle. And
Nice.
yeah.
Yeah. Keeping warm.
So my all my ideas truly are from Master. I mean, I can't say they're mine. Um, the funniest times I would get ideas would be either in the shower or driving to work. I'd get an idea driving to work, and I'd walk. I'm one of these teachers that after the class was over during the day, I would take, gosh, an hour and a half to 2 hours to clean my room, to meditate there and feel what we did for the day. And I made my day planner for the week. And I tune in really right at that point. I get everything together in the evening. So then when I walked in the morning, it was set. Because I think, like other teachers, things happen. I mean, parents come up to you, kid hurts himself, you got to be ready. So I just always did it in the afternoon. And some people came in early in the morning. It doesn't really matter, but it's just that time that you really set in your classroom. And I'd move my room around some days. If I didn't like the way the energy was going in the room, I'd move things. I'd move desks. I'd move take things out, bring things in. But I'll remember one time I was doing this unit on space, which was not my funnest thing to do personally. I liked it. It became fun, but it wasn't my choice. I don't remember how I started doing it, but I probably had boys and needed a boy unit. And this one little boy came into my class, very big, first day of school. He goes, "You are going to do space unit this year because you did that for my brother. So you can do that for me this year too, right?" And I hadn't had it planned. But anyway, I remember that year, it just wasn't gelling. I mean, the kids weren't really liking it that much. And, here you are in this big unit, and you're like, they're not really liking it, so you have to quickly change directions. But I remember one day I was thinking, I was trying to teach them the planets and location of the planets and how everything moved in the solar system. And I thought, how can I do this? Because they just weren't getting it. I had a model and everything. And one day I thought, I know, I'll do it as musical chairs. So I made planets that stuck on the chairs, and then I would play music, and I would put them in the order that they were in the solar system, you know, like where the moon would be and where Saturn would be and all that. And then I would play music, and everybody would walk around and land on the planet. And then they landed on the planet, they had to tell me something about that planet. So they immediately started remembering things. And then they got to keep the planet, right?
Oh, that's really
Until
cool.
the whole game was completely over.
I love that.
And,
That's
you
fun.
know, again, it had all the elements of EFL, the movement, the physical movement for the physical years. It had the intellect, it had the will, and it had the feeling. It just had it all, you know,
I love
in one
that.
game.
Oh, that's so
And
fun.
I was just on the way. It was on the way to school. I was driving.
Oh, wow, that's really cool. Oh,
So those
Chandi,
kind of,
sorry, can I just interrupt for 1 sec?
yeah.
I have another appointment starting in 5 minutes.
Oh, okay.
I had just an hour and a half allotted. So I really wanted to be able to talk with you more about your program online, but do you think we could wrap up the interview right now and then we could just talk
Sure.
a minute or two?
Sure.
Is there any like closing points you want to close with? Or, I mean, we had such a beautiful interview. I feel like there's so much good material there and just so much that you offered to all the teachers and parents and people who are going to watch these videos. So
The biggest thing for an EFL teacher, number one thing, and I used to always tell teachers this, new teachers that came on, I would say the number one thing is your sadhana. You have to have a strong sadhana to do this, because you are in tune with your children, you are in tune with God, and what flows through you is really that essence that you have, that you need to help others with. And the children just thrive on it. They thrive on it. They know too. They're smart, and they'll get your goat if you haven't meditated well. And I've seen that happen with teachers and with smart children who can feel the difference, and they'll get there. So that's the number one thing for an EFL teacher, is to be really have a strong sadhana.